And I pick up from where Pastor Brian left. We have been asked to limit our sermons to spans of 10 minutes. Now, the resurrection is an event that took place in an instant, and I don't believe I can describe it within 10 minutes. For all I know, theologians have tried to define and explain the resurrection for the past 2,000 years. So 10 minutes will not exactly do. So I'll just give you snippets of the resurrection and the life, because that's what I'm focusing on. And then you take it home and run with it and do whatever you need to do with it. So you look at John chapter 11, verse 17 all the way to verse 25. We are told that on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had been dead for 4 days, and Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem. And the Jews came to meet with Martha and Mary and comfort them in the death of their brother. Martha, when she heard that Jesus was coming, she ran out to meet him. But Mary stayed at home. Lord, she said, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And Jesus said, your brother will rise again. But she answered, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And Jesus said, you don't understand. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me will live even though he dies. And he who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Pastor Brian has dealt with the resurrection aspect, and now I need to deal with the life aspect. What does it mean to live out the resurrection that Jesus so powerfully explicated? I can't think of a quick passage for you. In fact, I can't think of a quicker one than the one you find at the very, 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 very last 2 verses of the Gospel of Luke. It's Luke 24, verse 52 and 53. What goes on there is Jesus had just ascended to heaven. And we are told that his disciples who accompanied him and witnessed his ascension, they worshiped him. And then they returned to Jerusalem with great joy. And they stayed continually at the temple and praised God. They did 3 things as a logical outworking of this life. How did they live out the resurrection? The first thing they did was they worshiped him incessantly. They worshiped him continuously. And they worshiped him regularly. The second thing they did was that they rejoiced in him incessantly. They rejoiced in him continuously. And they rejoiced in him regularly. And the third thing that they did for him is that they praised him continuously. They praised him regularly. And they praised him incessantly. May I give you what I call the A to Z of the resurrection as a way of living out this life of worship, this life of rejoicing, and this life of praising God incessantly, regularly, continuously as a unified whole. When Jesus rose from the dead, he authenticated his authority as Abba the Almighty. He bailed out believers from the bottomless beyond. He confirmed his conquest as the crucified creator, and he demolished his death with decisive defeats, and he entered our existence with endless eternity. And he fought the fight of the faith of his followers. He gashed the grave with the grace of God, and he horrified hell with the holiness of heaven, and he immolated impermanence with infinite immortality, and jabbed the jeers with justice of his judgment. And he kept the keys of the kingdom of the king, and he let loose the locked up with a legacy of liberation to mirror the message our master maintained of narrating the narrative that the nations need to observe omnipotent orders with outstanding obedience, to pray, proclaim, and preach and praise with a quality that quells the quandary of quacks. And his resurrection regenerated the repentant and redeemed, and saves and sanctified the sinners and saints. His tomb is a testimony to the triumph of his task, unbeaten, undefeated, unconquered, and unequaled. And he is the vows with the virtues of a victor and the valor of a vanquisher. And he waged the war on wickedness and won. So whether you are called Xanthu or Xavier or Xanadu or Xantippe, he yoked your yucky yearnings of yesteryears and zapped them to zero at the zenith of Zion. He's alive. He's back. He's a champ. He's deathless. He's Emmanuel. He's a fighter. He's God. He's holy. He's immortal. He's Jesus. He's King. He's Lord. He's Master. He's a no-nonsense necessity. He is omnipotent. He is powerful. He is quintessential. He reigns. He is sovereign. He is Trinity. He is unmatched. He is a victor. He is a winner. He is the X-ray that exposes our flaws. He is Yahweh. He is the zenith of zenith. He is risen indeed. And when he says, I'm the resurrection and the life, don't doubt him. He means it.